available, I'm not available. Change my mind. Busy.
Holy cow, wow. You guys ready to meet Saturdays or what?
I'm suddenly busy on
Friday nights, Saturdays? Man, wow. Figure it out, make it work.
I have a letter pending that's gonna go to the commissioner. That you talked to Ryan Parker. What did he say? Oh, just say hi. That's awesome. Okay. I have one. The one coming from you? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
All right, let's get the meeting started.
Okay. Let's, okay. Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
Nice.
okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Can I have the roll call, please?
We have all members present.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, public forum. Would anyone wish to speak? Would anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, we're gonna go to item number 3, approval of the minutes. This is 3A, January 17th, 2023, regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Who's
Oh.
out there second? I'm sorry.
Well, Scott, I would say, right? Dan first,
Yeah,
Scott second.
everybody.
Either way. Thank you. All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, correspondence. 4A, letter from superintendent to Senator Summers, Representative Lanou regarding reduction in ECS funding. So has everyone gotten a chance to read this? I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's, I'm outraged personally. I guess. Would you like to speak, Sean? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but.
We've been in contact, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've been in contact with the senator and the state representative. I'm working with various superintendents. Griswold, while we did, it is in the proposed budget from the governor, it's not finalized. There seems to be a dismaying pattern with Eastern Connecticut. I will say that, that's included in my letter. This did come as somewhat of a surprise. Eric and I have been looking into matters in terms of what variables went into the calculation. I will keep you posted as developments continue to focus around this. We're strongly advocating that, as explained in the letter, that this is not the time that education budget should be decreased in terms of ECS funding.
Thank you very much. Couldn't agree with you more. I'm very happy you sent these letters. Have they responded? Have the senator?
I've talked to both Senator Summers and Representative Lanou. They're equally troubled by it.
Right.
We're working with other superintendents in the region. As I mentioned, in London County, I think it's an overwhelming number of 76% of the municipalities were cut. There were some that were increased, and it's dismaying for many of us.
Is there any explanation for the increase and decrease?
So Eric has looked into it as well as I. We don't have a clear explanation. There are 15 variables that are included in the calculation. However, I have not received a clear answer. Eric, I don't know.
No, it's all to do with when they recalculated the formula. I think it was
2 years ago.
2017.
Yeah.
And they said some towns were underfunded, some were overfunded, and they're kind of trying to make up that difference. That's what they're saying. So they were saying back then we were overfunded.
We'll lose 100,000 in Springfield, we get 374,000.
Because they're an alliance district. The alliance districts got more.
So an alliance district is a district that's deemed a protected, held harmless district by the state of Connecticut because of downward trend test scores and other metrics. Griswold is not considered an alliance district. The alliance districts in Eastern Connecticut are Putnam, Killingly, Plainfield, Groton, New London, and Norwich. I may be missing one.
Because we do better with tests.
That's one.
That's one of the metrics. yeah.
Right. Yeah, this, you know, we could sit here all night and bash it because it's just terrible. What makes me so upset is you have the governor who's puffing his chest saying, oh, we're gonna increase educational cost sharing $35 million, this, that, and the other. Then you have the legislators say, no, we want to increase it even more. And then every town, you know, all these towns east of the Connecticut River just get totally slammed. And you know, I think we have an idea of the reason why, but it's brutal. So I'm thank you guys for fighting the good fight on it. And I'm gonna try to draft a letter myself. And I mean, unfortunately, the bad news is there's really not much we can do except kind of plead with them. So any more comments, questions?
If you feel it would help, Sean, to send copies of this to the governor's office or other budgeting office, decision makers, please do. The more they hear from you and the other superintendents, you know, maybe the repetition will wake them up a little bit.
And I know Mrs. Malin has been on board chair calls and she's advocating through CABE and different organizations that she belongs to for these cuts. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll move on. Item number 5, new business. We're gonna go 5A, Finance Director's Monthly Report.
All right, I included the revenue and expenditure reports for the general fund and also the donation fund reports and fund balance analysis. Revenues reported to date this year are $30,043,749.94. That's 77.9% of our budgeted revenues. Again, no major concern. I think we're still looking to be very favorable for revenues this year. Expenditures recorded to date, we're at $22,188,109.88. That's 57.53%. No major concerns. We have 5 items currently overspent. They're not really too concerning to me at this point. And we'll have enough money either within the budget line departments to cover it, or we have the exchange account that can cover it. But no major concerns as of now. I think we're on track to be pretty good. I still expect we're going to end up around 18.5% at the end of the fiscal year for our fund balance. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions?
The ZBA advertising, is there a reason for that?
There's just been a lot of meetings compared to in the past.
Isn't some of that covered by fees that are paid for the CBA applications themselves?
That goes into the revenue line. item.
Okay, so you don't wash it out? You
No.
just- Okay.
So Eric, just to clarify, that 18.5% that you're projecting and where we're gonna end up, that also takes into account the additional revenues that would wipe out the 600,000 that we appropriated to balance this year. Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a question, Eric. So this MRSA sales tax sharing grant,
Yeah.
that's the $250,000 that we got,
Yeah.
kind of out of
Or 270 or 2.
kind of out of nowhere, right?
What's that?
Kind of out of nowhere. They kind of
Yeah, we were advised not to budget for it
this year.
by CCM.
Oh, for last year.
Yeah.
And so,
And they're also saying CCM's in the governor's proposed budget doesn't have anything for us in it for
got it.
the upcoming year.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Yeah, I was kind of hoping on that one because I think at one point you mentioned they said they plan on including it this year.
I thought we would get something because again, with inflation, they're collecting a lot more sales tax.
Right,
But the governor kind of reshuffled the way all the grants are being paid out and kind of lumped them all together.
Yeah.
And now this is like the last thing after motor vehicle reimbursement for towns that are over 32 for a mill rate. So, I mean, it's the same situation.
Yep.
It's just
yeah, it's brutal. Yep.
small towns kind of.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, any more questions? Okay, we're gonna go on to item 5B, update from Superintendent of Griswold Public Schools on community multi-purpose field project and alternative school renovation project. Sean, if you
So,
will.
in your packets, you should have something, a document that I typed up, and I apologize right now for some of the typographical errors. I'm gonna go over the community multi-purpose field development at the 16th of February. And then I have with us tonight, Mr. Greenleaf, who is the clerk of the works for the alternative school project. So for the multi-purpose field on February 2nd, field director Chris Polk, who is partners with Andrew Dijak, Paul Lavasia, Mrs. Bennett, Eric Christensen, and Mario, and I met. We had a planning meeting to map out next steps. On February 10th, Griswold Public Schools, we created a facilities project dashboard to update the community on both projects. That is under construction, and we will have more information this week and next. February 13th, the Board of Education recommended, it's a recommendation only, that the community multi-purpose field have a project manager because of the board's successful relationship with Mr. Greenleaf, who oversaw a number of projects at Groton Public Schools, Clinton Public Schools, and Stonington Public Schools. The board did suggest Mr. Greenleaf be considered. On February 13th, at the Planning and Zoning Commission, Chris Holt presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission approved the 8-24 review on the proposed building and site work for the proposed community multi-purpose field, and indicated that they would like a report on the lighting plan for the project. February 14th, the Board of Selectmen voted on establishing a separate town committee for the community multi-purpose field. We are planning over the next couple of months, when I say we, the Board of Education, Administration, and I, to schedule sessions with select community groups to share with them the progress on the project and to build shared understanding. We will have a schedule that will be published on the website in the upcoming weeks. So happy to answer any questions on the community multi-purpose field before I move on to the senior center renovation alternative school project.
Any questions?
Who currently is on the community, the committee, the community?
I would have to defer to the town of Griswold. This is
Oh, the only person that has been selected was somebody from the Board of Selectmen. So we'll have somebody from the Board of Finance, Planning and Zoning, Board of Ed, and community members. So we don't have anybody on there yet.
Board of Selectmen, are you on it?
I am on it, yeah.
Just a general comment.
Go ahead. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
did, when I saw this, I did log on to the Griswold Public Schools website, and I would like to say, great job by putting all that information that is out there right now. I saw that the presentation that we all got is on there, and then the proposal, if you will, from Field Turf, I think is the name of it. So it's good information to get out there to the public. I think there was a lot of misinformation and people maybe jumping to their own conclusions. So I appreciate and encourage anyone that has questions and couldn't make meetings to go to the Griswold Public Schools website and look at the information that's available. So
So do you guys feel like this is moving along smoothly? There's no hiccups at the moment?
I do at this point. They're drafting Field Turf is drafting a contract that they're going to send over to Eric. I did speak with Mr. Dijak today. We're hoping and praying that the project can start a little bit earlier so that we can preserve the full fall sports season. So we wouldn't have to delay any games or practices or anything like that. So ideally.
Yeah. Great. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We're gonna move on to item 5C.
So the renovation.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, Sean. That's my
I
bad.
apologize. I have Mr. Greenleaf here, who is much more detailed than the engineering plans for this project and architectural plans. And I will have him speak if need be, if there's any questions. We spoke with Tina a few weeks ago, and she confirms that the senior center location, the Soul Street Senior Center, is almost empty. The school building committee met for their monthly meeting on February 9th. The committee took up the following topics: posting the RFP in the next few weeks. Because of the asbestos testing, we want to schedule the asbestos abatement before the renovation begins. There are vendors on the state bid list so that we would not have to go out to bid for this work. Hygienists must also be on site during and after the work. Before, during, and after work. The cost estimate from Hasbro is a little close to $17,000. and the hygienist cost estimate is about $3,000. Last spring, the Board of Finance was very generous in reallocating capital money, approximately $29,000 to this project. So we believe that we can address this work with that money, because we came forward to say that there was going to be a problem at that time with asbestos. We also had radon testing done in late November, early December in all of our buildings, and working with Wes, we thought it would be a good idea to get the senior center tested. Radon did appear on the test. So we are hoping to address this matter in the actual request for proposals. The radon mitigation cost estimate that we received was about $2,000. It is still early, and I want to caution everybody, but one of the contractors who provided a cost estimate in the fall of 2021 and who has expressed an interest in the project indicated that there might be a 30% increase in the original cost estimate that was provided. Myself, Mr. Greenleaf, Mr. Marzak, Marty Osga have been meeting on a bi-weekly basis to move the work forward. And again, this project will be updated on the Bristol Public Schools community dashboard to provide everybody with information. Wes, did you have anything to add?
Yes, a question.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yeah,
a
go
couple
ahead.
questions.
Go ahead.
This project was going to be funded through ESSER grant monies, is that correct?
That is correct.
About $300,000.
Correct.
Is there any reason to believe that the project is going to now run into excess of that $300,000 and will be an additional cost to the taxpayers?
So right now, I'm waiting for the bids to come in. We have to get the bids posted, the RFP posted. There is a possibility in the grant management, some other projects that we had allocated to that came in less. So I'm hoping not, but I would like to see what the bids are and to see if we can work with the grant manager to see if it does go over, we can reallocate money to that project. So we're doing our best to avoid that.
Is the building empty? I'm sorry, Alex, is the
No, go ahead,
building
go
empty
ahead,
now?
go ahead.
You just said it was almost
According to
empty.
them, there was a couple hours left of things to move out.
I thought it was gonna be empty on January 15th.
It's empty.
Empty.
So what was the original price of this project?
So the original, when we received a cost estimate in October 2021, it was about $256,000. That's why when we wrote the grant, we were talking to contractors about possibly what they would envision, having not gone out to bid. And that's why we landed on $300,000.
When do you expect to start? That's
We hope to post the RFP in the next couple of weeks.
Great.
And then we would have bids, and then ideally, we're thinking 6 to 8 weeks project.
oh, that's it. Okay, great.
And we're also looking at with Mr. Greenleaf and Fred, the possibility of values. We had, there's some items that if we didn't have to include.
Yeah, we're structuring the bid so that there are items that we could deduct. Part of it, for instance, is putting in a new stash. And we really need stash. Could we value, they call it value engineering. In this case, we just wouldn't accept the sash, we take it out of the contract. And there's a couple other things that we would be able to adjust if we had to. This is a very, very difficult time to get cost estimates.
Yeah.
It couldn't be worse. So the important thing we think is to get the thing out on the street and see how it comes in.
Okay, any more questions? Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
go ahead. Go ahead.
If the bids come in exceedingly high, do you have any possible design downgrades that you could implement that would still maintain a functional space while saving a little bit of money?
Well, that's just what I was talking about. I call it value engineering. There are certain things that we could cut out of the project if
Okay.
the town and the board of ed wanted to do that. So there is some flexibility, not a great deal. It's a fairly straightforward project. We can't, we have to comply with a number of codes, you know, for instance, the classrooms have to be ventilated no matter what, so you have to have a fairly sophisticated HVAC system to run those rooms. So, but there are certain things we've built there, we discussed it, we asked the architect to include that in the bid specs.
Go ahead,
Thank you.
No, it's good.
Yeah, just one more question, or two more questions. When do you anticipate construction to begin and what's the duration of the project?
We hope to get the RFP on the street soon, so then I think it's 30 days. Ideally, we'd like to start in April or May. The goal being ideally to open up for the 2023-2024 school year. So we do have some time, not a lot. And we will, it goes without saying, we will be communicating with our board and the Board of Finance. Our goal is, if we do get outrageous bids to come forward. I am hopeful that there are some projects that came in under that we worked on. We did some remodeling of our learning commons with our ESSER funds. And that came under, so I am hoping that there is money in that grant, providing that the grant managers allow it to apply to this project. So I will keep you posted.
Thank you.
Are you saying the RFP has to be posted for 30 days?
Approximately, yes.
When do you anticipate putting the prior property on the market?
We anticipate if we can get into the building, you know, starting for the new school year, August or September.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we're gonna move on to item 5C, discussion and possible action on appointing a member of the Board of Finance to the Community Multi-Purpose Field Committee. So as you can all see, we got a letter from Dana, the first selectman, asking for a member of the Board of Finance to be put onto that committee. Does anyone have a burning desire to be on this committee?
No, but I think maybe the chairman of the Board of Finance should be on the committee.
Yeah, that
It's an
would,
important project. that
Yeah.
Should be.
I would love to be.
I agree. I
Okay.
think it's an important project and I think our chair should be on it.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed. So I'll make a motion to appoint Alex Breslak as a member of the Board of Finance to serve on the Multi-Purpose Field Building Committee.
Second?
Okay, motion was made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Great. Okay. Item 5D, discussion regarding fiscal year 23-24 budget.
So I just wanted to update you where we're at.
Sure.
As far as getting the budget together, and I gave you the estimates for revenues from the state that CCM put out. As you see, we have about $70,000 that we're losing. Again, this is all gonna be negotiated. It's not final numbers, but just gives you an idea of what we could be looking at. And I just wanted to add to what Sean was saying earlier. The Council of Small Towns put out an email this afternoon that I read actually right before I came here. And they had said 64 small towns are receiving less funding from the state this year than they did last year. So it's not just us, it's all the small towns again hit pretty hard. So we're one of 63 other towns that are going through the same thing right now. Hopefully, there's a lot of talk from the legislators that they want to increase education funding, so we'll see what happens, because that's the bulk of it, but I don't know, it's gonna be tough if these are the numbers we get.
Every penny counts, but is this, in the letter it was 99, are you saying it's 69?
Well, no. So it's broken, the 99 is broken down over 2 years. So as you can see, there's a $49,000 reduction in ECS for this year. I didn't realize this until just now that they want to reduce our pilot money as well, which seems outrageous, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure why such a big drop there. That's something
Right.
I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, It was mentioned in the letter for the ECS, but at this point, can anyone explain to me what a distressed municipality is? Because they like to give us that label and yet we get continuously cut, so it's, I don't know, I mean, you can't answer that, I know, but it's frustrating to say the least, especially like I said, they keep talking about how they're gonna increase the budgets, this, that, and the other, so. Well, hopefully this doesn't pass as is, but
Yeah, we just.
we just have to be prepared, I suppose, yeah. Yeah.
Gotta hope that something gets done.
No, I appreciate this very much. This is very important to know.
And as far as the rest of the budget, I mean, there are some revenue items that are gonna be better. Interest income for one,
Right.
tuition, I think it's gonna be better from what we budgeted in the current year, so that'll help, but we're still looking at a tough year, I think. The Board of Selectmen, they've met with all the departments. They're hoping to finalize everything March 9th, because right now, we got all the requests, looked at what we had, and it's a big increase. So we're gonna try to whittle that down over the next couple of weeks until we can finalize a budget. I'm hoping to get better insurance numbers, things like that. But they're kind of looking for guidance on what you guys were expecting as far as where you want to see the budget come in. Because I know usually you say
Yeah,
0 or 2.5, but I can tell you that's gonna be difficult. Because most of our increases, there's nothing we can do about them, so. We're trying to do what we can, but they're looking for some guidance on what you guys are expecting as well. And it's tough because we don't have the grand list numbers yet. We will at the end of the month. So
Do you have
that'll
any,
play a role into
certainly,
how it'll affect the mill rate.
do you have any inkling on how that is, or no idea?
How what is,
The grand list?
I
No
don't
idea,
know.
yeah,
I haven't heard anything. But it's due at the end of the month, so.
gotcha.
How much, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, how about the school budget? Is that, how close are
We
we?
are still working on it. We're hoping to have it finalized by second week in March.
Okay, that's plenty of time there. Daniel,
I was just gonna inquire with Eric about debt service for the coming year, so what's that worth? We can't do anything about that either.
Right.
Wow.
well, not
No,
That
Maybe,
depends
maybe
on-
there's something we can do about.
That depends on what we talk about with the funding. Pull up the budget.
so we'll start paying on the field this year? Or not necessarily?
That's something I
Okay,
wanna talk
Gotcha,
about
gotcha.
under
okay,
the next thing. Yeah, right now, with what I have budgeted for debt service. I have an increase of 5.36%, 118,251,
yeah, that's not brutal, that's not,
5 what,
36%,
118,000?
yeah.
3.6%.
5.36%, 118,000. Okay, any more discussion or questions, comments on this?
What is the deadline for the governor's budget? And we get the final number?
The first week of June, so. Hopefully we'll hear talk of possible changes before then, but. They're not due to finalize it until I think June 4th,
Right,
which doesn't really do much for us.
Doesn't help us at all.
no, we kind of have to go with what we have, I mean, really at the moment, but.
Still don't understand why they
Should be the other way around.
don't put out the municipal aid in February when people are putting their budgets together.
Right,
Doesn't make sense, but it's a state when you want.
right. Okay, so, here we go again, but,
When do they need some guidance from us by? Hoping tonight?
They were hoping tonight you would. give
oh,
an
okay,
idea.
okay, good point, Dan, good point, Dan, sorry about that.
Before you go on to the.
No, it didn't even cross my mind. Okay, so let's have the fun discussion here. Where,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
I was at the last meeting, the people are starting to question how we're gonna pay for all these things that we are doing.
Agreed,
Senior
yeah.
center, the field, 5.36, I don't know what's gonna be the following year. But just as you can see with the vote on the field, that there are people out there voting against these things because they're wondering how it's gonna be paid for. So we have to be attentive to that as we go into making this budget. There's a lot of people out there that are wondering how they're gonna afford to pay this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. So does anyone want to throw out a number or start the discussion on how they feel? And I know it's hard to get a starting point, but
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
the other issue, I think that we should consider while we're talking about how we're going to pay for the most recently
Mhm.
approved referendum, the multi-purpose field. We also have the water and sewer extension project, and that project was supposed to be for increasing our tax base, increasing the opportunities for commercial development. And now that's getting cut back because of inflation and et cetera. I think we should give strong consideration to the fact that if we're going to be taking money out of the undesignated fund balance or anywhere else, we really need to be talking about investing in infrastructure that is supposed to be increasing our commercial development for the future of our town and taxpayers, because we're going to be taxing and taxing and taxing all these residential properties without any commercial development if we don't invest in the commercial development that we promised the taxpayers we'd do 2 or 3 years ago. So I don't think we can take this multi-purpose field funding and address it in a vacuum. I think we have to address both issues.
I agree totally. Yeah, of course, definitely. Scott, you're talking?
I do. You know, in years past, we were able to provide some, if I want to say rather pointed guidance on, we're hoping for a good starting point or maybe even a landing point on the budgets. But in all of those years, the budgets have been relatively straightforward. We have a considerable amount of irons in the fire on expenses that are going to significantly impact the mill rate. And it's really hard right now to kind of figure out where we're going to land on that. I mean, me personally, if I were to say, what kind of suggestion could I make to the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Education on how to craft your budget? I think that you might want to think about crafting several budgets, and you know, you can come in and say, this is what we need, but at the same time, you should probably have in your back pocket a budget that maybe perhaps is a 2% or a 1% or even a worst case and a 0%, because I think it's really hard for us to really know right now where we're going to land, and for us to say, hey, look, I think that if you guys came in at 2%, that's workable. I think that's really short-sighted, or would be short-sighted, certainly from my perspective. I think that it is. Because it's too fluid at the moment. We have, the increases in long-term debt. We have the referendum items that were approved by the voters. It's just like budget season. This is what we're given. We've got to figure out how to, balance what we have for money against the needs of the people. And it's now being also influenced on these very large fixed, budgetary cost increases.
Yeah.
So that would be my personal opinion, is they need to understand that it might be prudent to say, look, here's a worst case scenario budget we've crafted. Here's kind of a middle of the road, and here's here's where we want to come in at. You know, we'll know more as we get closer, but we're likely not to know until we get to that point.
Hey, I think you just summed it up pretty perfectly. It's very tough, especially, you know. Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, Eric, but you're kind of getting my alarm bells going here, saying how it's gonna be a massive increase. So
Right now, we're over 7% for operating budget. And that's without really adding anything to what we have.
So the bulk of that is contractual, basically.
A lot of it's health insurance.
Yeah.
They're saying 10%, and that's a big part of our budget. I mean, our union contracts are only 2.5%, so it's not like,
Yeah.
and that's what pretty much everyone's getting, 2.5%, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's coming from salaries or anything.
Correct.
Another thing to keep in mind is a lot of our outside services like NECOG, animal control, seat bus, the Southeast Council of Governments, all their requests were coming in at like 8 to 10% higher than last year. There's not much we can do about it. I mean, inflation, everyone sees it at home. It's hitting us too,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
just something to keep in mind that
right.
it's not gonna be easy to get down to where we normally do.
Yeah, that's wow. I mean,
Are there any positions or half positions being added?
There's one position, part-time position that was proposed by the department. But honestly, I can't see if that's gonna go forward or not.
okay, so knowing that, does anyone have any comments? Because
Well, I wouldn't have said 7%.
yeah,
No, and like I said, we're gonna really look at what we can do. But I think I looked, 96% of our increase was just fixed.
yeah. No, I mean, it's not surprising. It's unfortunate, but it's not surprising. Anyone else have any comments or?
No, I would agree with Scott's summary. I mean, I think
Yeah, it's
we need
great.
to come prepared with. Here's the needs, you know, here's what was presented, here's what we would do if you needed to cut. I mean, it's the same conversation that we have every year, right? What would you say, you know, for the board ed, for instance, what would you say if we had to cut, you know, 500 grand or whatever the case may be out of that? Where would that come from? I think you should be prepared to discuss that when we meet.
Yeah, we can do that.
I think we also need to all, at least on the board, and this is, you know, if I need to lead the charge and fall on the sword, so be it, but we all need to wrap our minds around the fact that we need to use a considerable amount of our undesignated fund. There's no doubt about that in my mind, and I think it's, at this point, it's, in my opinion, we're at the point where we're overtaxing the taxpayer because we're so far above the minimum, we're above the maximum. In my mind, this is really what it's as bad as the other news is. 7%, the state cutting our funding. We're in a very good situation here. And I think this is the year we need to spend quite a bit of it. So I don't really think many people will be too opposed to that, but the dollar figure that we need to spend, I think, yeah, that maybe there'll be a bit of debate over that, but we need to really, this is a kind of our ace in the hole and we need to use it. So any more comments, questions? I think Scott summed it up pretty nicely. I don't know, it's hard to give them a basically come in with what you got and we'll take it from there.
I think what Scott and Eric said is, tighten the belt. Because it doesn't look good.
Yeah, because, you know, as much as these increases are, you know, the town and the school and all of us are facing inflation, so is every taxpayer out there. And so I'm so weary to raise taxes. You know.
And I agree, Mr. Chairman. I think I would say that at this point in time, and, you know, again, we haven't seen all the numbers, I'd be really hard pressed to support anything over 5% increase.
Oh, yeah, agreed, yeah.
You know.
I
the
totally
ideal would
agree,
be
yeah.
to 2 to 3%, but if all our numbers right now are at 7%, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, absolutely right. Eric, do you have off the top of your head what it was last year? The town operating budget increase? Okay, no worries. I know it wasn't 7, I am pretty far now. 2 and change maybe, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds, that's.
Yeah. I want to say 2.79%, but
Mhm,
And that doesn't include debt service.
correct.
right,
I think it'd be good to know if we only funded these fixed cost increases, what that percentage would be.
Yeah, and I can come up with that, but.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at.
Yeah.
What they were.
I guess to sum it up, what we would ask, I think what I ask is that the people crafting the budgets and the people coming to us with the budgets, come prepared to go multiple rounds with us and really look at every line item and really tighten their belt, so,
Last year was actually 1.89.
okay.
General government operating.
Eric, if you were to calculate what the bond rates are now
Oh, that's good.
on the talking about the multipurpose field and the number of years that you're expecting to extend it out, what is the approximate annual obligation for that piece of the debt service?
It all depends on how you want to do it. If you want to do 10 or 15 years, and if you want to do level debt or level principal. Level debt, your debt service is basically the same every year. Level principal, you start out with a higher payment and it gets lower. So with that, you're gonna pay a little less interest, but you're paying a lot more upfront. So you gotta kind of.
Well, if you went with the first option at 15 years, what number would that give us as far as what gets baked into the debt service budget?
For a level debt service, you said, for
Mhm.
15 years, we're looking at a little under 340,000, if we do the full 3.8 million.
340,000 a year.
Yeah,
Okay, any more discussion on the overall budget? We can move on to
Well, I just, my only comment is, we've been telling the taxpayers, they have voted on all these projects. They know that it was gonna cost money, and we've been saying we're gonna have to pay for it eventually, so
right,
no one should be shocked if our taxes are going up, and hate to get, I mean, we still have to budget our school and our town, and it's gonna go up. We know that when we agreed, the taxpayers voted on all these projects, so we're not gonna be miracle workers, and we can't destroy budgets completely, and we knew this was coming, so.
yeah, no, it's valid. Just thought of one last thing, so I think it also needs to be explained that, at least in my opinion, this is kind of like this is our last stopgap year to put off the infrastructure that should have been done years ago. This is, I mean, at this point, we can use reserve funds to possibly smooth it over this year, but all this money that is supposed to be spent and it hasn't, and now we're looking at a massive increase in the project, and we really need it done desperately. So I think everyone at this point is doing a good job, the best they can to get it moving forward, but it leaves so much uncertainty for the Board of Finance and the taxpayer that it needs to be done. So. Okay, any more discussion on that one? We'll move on. Okay, 6A, discussion and possible action on funding alternatives for community multipurpose field. So I think Eric was kind of touching on this.
yeah, I've been talking with our financial advisor on the best route to go. Typically what happens is if the project's 3.8 million, we don't take out a 3.8 million bond right up front because the cost could come in lower and it wouldn't make sense. So what happens is you take out a bond anticipation note. He said right now, but usually you do that because the bands are very low interest. But he said right now it's kind of inverted where the bands are at 4.5%. So in talking to him, I was like, well, it's a short-term project. We're talking
Right.
3-4 months.
Yeah.
I said, I think we'd probably be better off we have the money in surplus to kind of
Yeah.
cover it.
Yeah.
We're better off doing that. And with the timing of it, we have all the tax revenues coming in July when a lot of the work will probably be getting paid for. So I think cash flow won't be an issue. So I think we probably should do that. And then do the final bond once we get close to the end of the project.
Yeah.
And another thing by doing that is that kind of puts off part of the debt service payment, because what happens is your first principal payment is due 1 year after you take out the bond. So if we end up taking it out in July or August,
It'll be next year's budget.
we don't pay the first principal payment until the following year.
Yeah.
So in this budget coming up, the only thing that is gonna hit is one interest payment. Because you pay an interest payment every 6 months, and then the principal payment with one of the interest payments. So this will kind of ease the debt service a
Yeah.
little bit instead of everything hitting next year.
Mhm.
So I think that's what I would recommend doing. And plus, if you put out the bond anticipation note, you have all the legal costs
Yeah.
and the bonding costs that goes along with that. So
And
in
you
my
incur
opinion,
that Twice,
what's that?
you incur that twice.
Yes, you do it when you do the ban and then again with the bond. But being such a short
Yeah.
time
Time
period
period,
project, it doesn't make sense,
Mm.
in my opinion, to go the ban route. Especially when interest rates are 4.5%.
Right.
Mhm.
I could see if they were 0%, because we're making more on that investing the money. But right now, we're getting around 4.5% on our investment, so it's kind of a wash. But we're not incurring the bonding costs. So,
So essentially what we would do is pay ourselves back with the bond.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hypothetically, we could, I don't know how it worked budget wise and everything else, but we could take out less of a bond and essentially use some of the surplus to pay the
yeah,
project, right? Yeah.
you would have to do it through our budgeting process.
Right.
That would be the easiest way.
Yeah. Okay, so then that means we wouldn't need to decide essentially on how long it would be or anything like that until after the project's done, essentially, right?
Yeah, but I mean, do you guys agree? Would you be on board with not going the ban route?
How does everyone feel? I mean, it makes it kind of pretty,
Yeah, go right to.
pretty out, yeah, makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, as far as that's concerned, we really don't have to worry about it
I
until,
think we probably should take a vote on that.
that's a good idea,
It's
yeah.
it's a big deal.
Yep, you're right. Okay, can I have a motion? Would someone like to make a motion? I don't know how it would be phrased, but
How do you want to bring?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion that in lieu of getting bond anticipation notes to pay for the project during its construction phase, that we utilize the money from our undesignated fund to pay for those costs, and upon completion, apply for the bond at that point.
Yeah, and I would add up to the amount approved through referendum.
Up to the amount approved the referendum.
That won't have anything to do when we go to, if we decide to use fund balance during this budget season.
No,
okay, there's been a motion made.
I'll
Is
second it.
there a second? Okay, any discussion? I guess the only quick little caveat well, not caveat, but the only thing I would ask is if you could somehow separate it when you're showing us the fund balance, Eric. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but
yeah,
yeah. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item 6B, discussion and possible action on setting budget meeting dates. As you all could see,
A lot of X's, we're playing tic-tac-toe?
Yeah, there's a lot of X's. We're
Yeah,
gonna-
next out. If those who had responded, but Gary had added, you're gonna be gone when?
20th to the 24th.
Of March, 20th,
Through the 24th?
Yeah, the whole week.
The whole week.
So it's really getting narrowed down.
yeah, we're gonna, we needed to start setting dates and go. So I guess the first question is, how soon can the town be, have it to us?
They plan on finalizing on March 9th.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're gonna have to basically meet every open day here, unfortunately, but,
And my thought is. Probably 3 meetings with departments would be enough. And then I know Scott had mentioned. Trying to come up with the budget before the public hearing, which typically changes have been made after. So I mean, if you wanted to do that, I would think 4 meetings before the public hearing.
I agree.
and that's just the town, right? Okay, so we might as well figure this out. So does the 13th work for everyone?
Sure.
Yes.
Or for me, do you want to meet before 7? Is that possible for everyone? Or no?
I would rather keep it at 7.
Okay.
just as manager.
Okay, so 7 o'clock on the 13th. How about the 14th? Board of Selectmen meeting, do you expect that to go over an hour, Dana, or hard to say?
I doubt it will go over an hour,
Okay,
yeah.
you feel comfortable with that, Eric, doing it here, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the 14th at 7, is that okay with everyone? Yeah, looks good. I mean, I'd rather not, meet on a Friday unless we really had to. Let's go to the
But I
28th.
think as long as you guys are done by the end of April,
We're doing all right.
we
Okay,
can go to the public hearing the first week of May maybe and still get the referendum done in the beginning of June in time to send out tax bills.
okay.
We do
Um,
have another, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
We do have another meeting in here on the 13th at 7.
Oh, we do?
PNC.
Yeah, we would have
So-
to look at an alternate.
Okay, just to,
location.
Okay, yeah, and let me know if not, we can obviously adjust, but let's try to get something locked down, because it'd be nice to get those 2 meetings knocked out, and then we're kind of ahead of the game.
But you could probably definitely do something on April 18th, which is your regular meeting, instead of having a separate meeting.
Okay,
Is the meeting space available at the senior center? The new senior center? Like we used to do at the old senior center when this room was booked?
Yeah, I'd have to check and see if we did.
okay, how about the 30th or the 28th? What do you guys prefer, both?
28th.
That's kind of a lot, I mean, we have
Either.
either. Okay, let's do the 28th at 7. And again, if you see any scheduling issues, Eric, don't hesitate to. I don't think anyone
Yeah, I'll
minds.
try and work it out.
Yeah,
But, you know,
and then, how about the 5th, or do you want to do the 30th? Get it all done right away.
Why don't you tentatively do the 30th and the 5th, and you can always cancel.
Yeah, let's do that. Good idea. Is that it? 30th at 7 work for everybody?
Yep.
Okay,
That way we can cancel one or the other that week
Yeah.
and.
Yep.
If we have contract.
agreed. And then so the 5th. Zoning Board of Appeals, they meeting here, I'm assuming?
yeah, if they have a.
Right, they might even have a meeting, right?
Yeah.
So let's do 7 and plan on somewhere else or here if they don't meet. I think that's probably good to start with. And then once we get the school budget, we can adjust for that.
I can send an email out, to all the department heads with these dates.
Right. That sounds good.
Who's available.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
With regard to the meeting schedule, typically when we're gonna get the presentation from the Board of Ed, we normally get our binder Thursday or Friday before that presentation. I would like to, if possible, get that binder maybe a couple of weeks before they present. There's a lot of information in that binder and a significant number of line items, and when we get the binder, there's really not enough time for us to, at least for me personally,
I agree.
drill down on all of those pages. So we end up getting a presentation that says, hey, here's where we are, here's what we need. And our percentage increase is X. Do you have any questions? And for me, I haven't been able, I can't ask any questions because I haven't been able to look at the budget. So I would certainly appreciate the extra time to be able to look at that before you present. If we could get it maybe 2 weeks before you're going to present.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds perfectly good to me as well. Is that reasonable, you think?
You're looking at me.
I'm looking at you.
I mean, if we have enough time to map it out with the board.
Yeah, we'll be in discussion for
We
sure.
want to give you everything we have.
Sure.
And to your point, it is kind of massive.
It is.
So, so I'm just thinking, I'll have to work with Eric on
Yeah.
the date when everybody's
Sure.
available. Might be a little bit later because the board's not quite done.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think we're in pretty good shape as far as time. So as long as we kind of stay on track and everything goes somewhat smoothly, we should be okay.
Yeah, Alex. if I
Yep,
may,
go ahead.
I mean, Scott makes a very good point, but I would echo the same for the town government budget. If it's not gonna be done till March 9th, we're meeting on it. That's a Thursday. We're meeting on it for the first time on Monday. So
Mhm.
we have direct line under control over the town government budget. We do not have direct line under
Right,
control
right.
of the Board of Ed budget.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a great point. I guess the problem with that is we typically meet with the town first, so it gives us a little less wiggle room on that, but I guess, if you could, I don't know how we can get around that, to be honest.
Well, and certainly in the town budgets, we do get individual presentations by the.
Yeah,
by the
it's more
departments,
so,
right.
broken down a lot more, yeah. I mean, we have a solid month or so to really, till we need to decide on cutting anything or changing anything, so. I see your point, Dan, but I just don't know how we could.
Right, but typically, do you have any questions in front of the department head, and they don't
Right.
typically come back to the meetings after they.
No, that's a
turn
good
in the
point.
seat,
No, that's a
right?
great point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
They come in and present, and then you don't see them again.
So what, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
The 13th and 14th. Further out.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, you get. I don't know when, Eric, you would get the budget to us from the town side.
Yeah, it
Would
would
it
be able
be
to-
Friday?
Till Friday, Thursday night. I have them pretty much ready. It won't take me long to put them together once everything gets finalized. I could have them ready. I don't know what time you were gonna meet on.
We meet at 2:30, I believe. I don't know if we'll get through all of it. I don't, on the 9th.
So do you
Okay.
wanna-
I mean, worst case, we could cancel the 13th or 14th, but
Do you want
I
to,
don't know how else to get around, to be honest.
do you
with
want to go a little deeper in April, just in case you have to switch it back?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's set a couple more meetings and then, we'll see how it shakes out and if people want another,
You don't have to go real deep in April. but we'll look at this.
Looks good.
let's do the 18th.
Our regular
Yeah.
meeting.
It's our regular meeting.
Yeah. How would that work afterwards? Or can you do it? You
Put
can't
it on the agenda.
And
So do it as part of the.
do it in a little bit,
Do
basically?
do it as part of.
Okay.
Make it part of the agenda.
Okay, so let's make the 18th,
Do you want to do that on the 21st of March as well?
the only problem is we'll be missing a member, but, who's gonna be going the 21st? Gary. No, let's wait. I mean, I think we're still in decent time. We might have to meet here 2 days in a row, 18th and 19th.
You want to pencil in the 19th?
Yeah, let's pencil in the 18th for sure. And then, does the 19th work for everyone? It seems to. And again, hopefully, if we can get the budgets in time, we won't need these dates, but
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
when did the Board of Ed think they could get the package for us?
yeah, do you guys have a ballpark date?
So we are scheduled to do a presentation on Monday night. I will tell you someone right now on my team is sick.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to, we're scheduled to do it on Monday night and then have to change the date. The public hearing is now on March 6th. The board right now is scheduled to vote on the budget. All things considered on March 13th.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That gives us a lot of,
Yeah.
lot of like.
That's tentative.
They don't know,
Right.
that's tentative,
Right,
right?
sure.
You know, they could deliberate some more.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that, no, I think that's ahead of kind of what we expected, so that's good.
So do you want to not count on a 13th and a 14th, just so you guys have time to,
How's everyone feel? I mean, it
because
could,
we have plenty of dates in the March and April that we can get it done.
We were gonna try
I
to
just don't
craft,
want to rush it.
we're gonna try to craft the final budget too, though, before public hearing, right? Or as close to as a final
Yeah.
budget.
what's our drop dead date, June 1st? Is that like,
No, I kind of work back. Thinking.
Yeah,
there
'cause
was
you
a
need the-
June 6th referendum, which again, it may not be that date, but just trying to.
Yeah.
Ballpark it.
okay,
And my thought was public hearing would probably have to be around May 2nd, about a month before.
okay,
Because then you have to have at least one meeting. For you guys to finalize the budget and send it forward to town meeting. And then you need basically 2 weeks between the town meeting and referendum.
okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, go ahead.
I maybe recommend that we at least pencil in a date on either the 25th or 26th. And we can cancel if we don't need it in case we end up having to have a workshop to try to do that final push to craft the budget just before. public
I
hearing.
agree.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do. Which day do people prefer, 25th, 6th, or 7th? It doesn't really matter to me.
Tuesdays are pretty consistent.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so let's pencil in the 25th. And kind of use that as, hope we don't need it. Let's go back and. Let's go back and just wipe out 13th and 14th. Is that okay with everyone? Or do we still want to?
Could we use the 14th for those departments that might have their budgets early to get some of the easier and the shorter
Straightforward,
presentations
yeah.
taken care of? Or do you think that would just be a disorganized approach?
It's up to you guys. I mean, if the Board of Selectmen are able to finalize their budget on the 9th, then if that's enough time for you guys to look over.
How about some of those other things like contributions, debt service, some of those that perhaps don't need the presentation that you normally say, hey, these are your fixed, here they are, we kind of
Yeah.
run through them.
I mean, I could do that, but I mean, that's gonna be pretty quick.
Yeah, right, yeah,
So I don't know if you wanna have a meeting just for.
that's true.
that.
That's true, yeah.
Is the capital
Yeah, I was
improvements
just
committee,
thinking
is
that
that
myself.
something that can be taken earlier, or is that also an integral part of the selectmen's budget?
It depends on if they decide they wanna send it forward.
True, yeah, it's up to them, so. Okay, how about we just keep it tentative for now?
But not both,
Yeah, the 14th, I was thinking.
yeah.
Yeah, let's keep the 14th tentative. It's a Tuesday. I think that works. So,
Get rid of the 13th.
yeah, let's get rid of the 13th. That way. At that point, if we do get it the 9th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, we could, like you guys suggested, kind of do some of the more, the smaller departments or more straightforward things, or just maybe just do capital that day or something like that. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. I think that's pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
Eric, if you don't mind sending that out to us.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Thank you guys very much for your input. 6C, update and discussion on bonding projects.
I know the $1 million question. No, we did not get the money yet for the senior center. I should say the $1.2 million question.
Yeah.
I know Dana's been going back and forth for them quite a bit. I think Ryan Acosta from DECD has everything he needs. At this point, CHRO, it's in their hands. They're trying to get answers to a few questions. It just kind of process is so prolonged because everything was done backwards.
Yeah.
Because typically what happens with CHRO at the beginning of the project, if you're getting state money, there's certain forms you have to file, which they weren't filed at the time because we didn't think we were gonna be using state funds, so. I don't know if Dana wants to kind of add to who she's at with that.
Well, I think Rob has one of the most recent updates. I have started writing a letter to Ryan or to the commissioner because he wants a letter of substantial completion from the town. And then do you have any other
That's
comments
one
about
of the things
that?
we talked about, and I
Okay.
reached out to Scott to see if he'd write it for us.
Okay,
So he's checking with his partners before he writes it to make sure there's not a liability issue, but
Scott is from,
KBA, the
okay,
architect, if they write it, it goes right through.
What's that essentially mean that we're done? And is that what it's saying?
yeah, the reason being is that the architect was stopped in February of 2021. So we have some documents the architect has not signed off on
Okay.
from February 2021 until the completion of the building. That's kind of where some of this has stopped, so. I think.
Are we having a problem getting the architect to sign those?
Well, the problem is that if the architect wasn't there to periodically come in and look at things, they've been slowing the drawing rough. Is, the walls were put up, the ceilings were put up, so some of that is out of the way and they can't assess all of the things that were done.
Now, Eric, what does this do if we don't get this money and by the time our budget's? No.
I think we'll get the money, so. And,
Holy cow.
trying to think,
Wow. I love your optimism.
Listen, Brian thinks we're gonna get the money.
Yeah, he has said that.
Okay.
He would like this off the table, off the lady said,
I'm
and he'd
sure.
like it off.
It's just timing though.
it's just all. the
Budget
red
years
tape.
ago, I
I
heard the
mean-
term slam dunk once.
How did this happen that the walls were closed up before the architect did his required inspection and sign off? Aren't there certain bench marks where the architect is supposed to come in and everybody know the contractors must know at what point the architect has to come in to sign off on something before they proceed to closing up a wall or a ceiling or whatever? How did this happen?
The contract with the architect was discontinued in February of 2021. So the architect was no longer on board.
So how, did we know this?
I don't recall.
I don't recall.
So
ever
much
hearing
happened,
that.
yeah.
So who discontinued it, or how did the discontinuance happen?
I think it has to.
Biggest one is we ran out of money to pay. They ran out
Right.
of contract,
But
so
we weren't told that the contract with the architect was going to be terminated and we wouldn't get those services. Were we? I mean, were we told that?
I don't recall that, no. I don't recall
So now we're paying him again.
Well, you can't. You
We're
can't
not-
open up a wall and have them inspected and sign off on it.
How is he, because I don't,
he's gonna see if they can do us a favor. They know how it was built, it's built.
Is there any
At the point
process
where
for
they
waivers?
stop being on the job, most of the building was already done.
It was
just kind of finishes that were not complete.
ceilings and things like that, but they can pop a ceiling tile, put their head up there and look. So they can do a walkthrough and be fine. That's what he's checking on. Because again, like Eric said, most of that was done.
And do we have a commitment from the architect to essentially do that?
Not yet.
I reached out to him today and he's checking with his partners to see if they'll do that for us. It's not the only avenue we have to get this done with Ryan and the state. He was talking about Dan writing a letter and she can talk to that.
What about PAC? Are we able to get I mean, they were the construction manager throughout that. Can they not certify the substantial completion?
Pat has already sent the letter.
They have, but
Yes.
that was not good enough, or it was not enough, I guess.
It's not enough.
Okay,
It's the state wants either KDA or town to say.
understood. Okay.
And what additional answers does CHRO need? Because I thought, you know, when we talked last month and the month before, we had submitted answers to all their questions. Have they come up with more questions?
They have come up with more questions. They're continuing to go back to PAC and asking them to fill out the documents that say they used affirmative action, that they followed CHRO principles when they were going out to their subcontractors. And so they're kind of backtracking because they didn't necessarily follow those guidelines because we didn't have these funds.
Right. So is there a way to get the money if we can't certify that we followed all CHRO's guidelines?
Ryan's, and you might have had a different conversation, but Ryan's conversation was with me was that he does not have anything to do with CHRO. So I don't know the full answer to that besides that.
His conversation with me is he can release the money without CHRO's approval.
Pardon me?
That's what I heard.
His conversation with me was that he can release the funds without CHRO approval.
Well, is there a waiver process or an exception process or
I don't know
anything?
the process. I didn't want to push him when he was back first day from PTO. So the fact that he even called was,
Are we talking about major deviations from CHRO requirements or? just-
No, I don't think so. The most recent contractors have followed CHRO. It's just there was some gap, I think, when they first started getting some of the contractors. I don't think it's anything to worry about at this point. I think it's just a matter of just getting through the red tape and, you know, trying to be as compliant as we can.
Ryan said the same thing. And he'd like it off his desk in March, is what he told me.
We would too.
That's what I said.
We would too. So as far as bonding projects, is there anything to update on the senior center? Everything's a go?
Everything now is done. The ATS was done last week. The last thing we're waiting for is a gen set to come in. That's in May right now. It's been May for 2 months now, so we're really looking on a stick. So that comes in May and they're out.
As far as paying bills there, have they come asking for payment on all this stuff or?
Not lately, they haven't been doing anything, so.
Okay, other bonding project, any update on the
Water and sewer.
water, sewer,
We put
gas?
in the CIF grant, which is for distressed municipalities, so hopefully this is somewhere where it will benefit us. They're supposed to forward the projects, I think on March 14th,
Okay,
the ones that they wanna put forward, and then it goes through a couple other divisions. It goes to the governor and then he has to send it to bond commission, but
so we're,
March 14th is, I think, when the recommendations come out.
that's a big day for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
That's a big day.
And
for us.
also, and again, designs continuing on both. They're pretty much both almost ready to go to bid. Dana also put in for state bond commission funds through the budget. In the case we don't get the CIF, kind of as a
Backup, plan?
backup plan. So we're doing everything we can to
Great,
fill that gap.
great.
Is
Can I
it,
add?
is it
Yeah.
anything that our political representatives can help with at this point?
Yeah, actually, it was Senator Summers' aide that reached out to me last week for the water tower funding, and so they're doing everything they can. Yeah,
Is there something not gonna be in the bonding project that was originally proposed? I mean, for water.
Not that
We're
we know.
hoping, we're hoping with the CIF grant, we'll be able to do everything.
And
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to point out, we just had the Griswold Water Pollution Control Authority, they just approved the sewer project. I don't know if people have, I've heard people making comments about what's been done on it. This is all that's been done this year. I was here for a week. I made an appointment with the water and sewer contractors to meet with the engineers. We met with them a weekend. And they have produced all of these documents. Well, some of these are my notes, but these two documents, the maps, and we are just about ready to go. We should probably go out to bid in May or June and then be in the ground in July at least. So we're moving.
That's great news.
Yeah, we've
that's
had all of our
fantastic.
approvals and I think we have to work with Connecticut DOT a little bit. But we've got some, we're having a great success.
I was at the meeting also because I live on the street here, so there was one thing that they did was a negotiation with the development over here, the condos and the apartments, because it's a closed in sewer.
Yep.
And we were gonna try to hook in and then go from there. But you can update the board on that.
Yeah, we have Indian Ridge Apartments. They have a private sewer there, so we have to scope that sewer just to make sure that it's acceptable for us to hook into. And if we can't, then we'll, do some other alternatives. So we also had to worry about salamanders and snakes and blackberry bushes, things like that. So we've had some, environmental and archaeological and habitat things to deal with. So,
Yeah,
Check with owls.
yeah.
yeah, great horned owls.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know whether this is the time to raise it or not, but
Okay,
I mentioned several meetings back that I thought we should have a requirement, whether it's by ordinance or however Eric thinks is the best way to craft it, to require that we have a clerk of the works on any town project, because I never want to see a future group go through what we've gone through before. And the clerk of the works, that person's responsible for crossing the Ts and dotting the Is and making sure that we don't face this situation again.
I totally agree with you, Gail.
Did we vote on that?
I don't remember voting on,
I don't know, but I know
it
you
has
did.
to be an ordinance, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
and we didn't vote on an ordinance.
No, that would have to go to the ordinance committee. which
Okay,
They will be the ones.
and has
Not
the
yet,
request,
not yet.
As a board, we could potentially put a request forward for them to consider that, or is that in our purview, you think, or?
Yeah, and I can talk to, who's the chairman of ordinances, Ed? Or-
Yeah. I mean, typically, the Board of Selectmen has presented an ordinance request. I'm not sure that an individual citizen can't do that. I don't know that, but what's your thought there? I mean,
Well, I agree with the board. I think that while I'm here, I would not want to do any projects without a clerk of the works
Right.
and have somebody that's responsible. I mean, I've worked a lot. Eric's been in these meetings, Mario and I have been in these meetings. So I know a lot more about sewer and water than I ever have. And, but I would not be one of the people that would want to be watching the project. I'd want to have
Right.
somebody. that's
Right, and
experienced
you have a
doing it.
different job to do, and
Yeah.
I think so, like, to Gail's point, we would like someone dedicated, that's their only,
Right,
that's their whole existence.
because
for
the
that.
Board of Ed has that requirement,
yes.
don't you? You have a clerk of the works requirement.
I think it's buried somewhere in one of the, I do think it's.
In your
I think it's in the
policy.
school
I
building
can't quote it
committee.
right now,
Yeah.
I believe it's in 7,000 policy somewhere.
Yeah, I was under the impression you have that requirement, that you impose upon yourselves.
I mean, what do you think the best route is? Does everyone agree with that, by the way? Does anyone disagree?
Yeah, I mean, speaking from personal experience, I also think clerk of the works or / commissioning agent, and you don't necessarily need a commissioning agent on a project like the water and sewer, but the senior center or school building, when we did the school building, we did have a commissioning agent. That commissioning agent came in too late in the game, in my opinion. Commissioning agent should be on board when the first drawing hits the street so that the design and build and can verify that, yes, it
Full
was
deal.
built to design and it's operating as designed right down to the water flowing through the pipes and the air coming out the vents.
Information.
So if memory
There is a
serves
cost
me,
to a commissioning agent, but they're certifying that everything was done to the engineer's spec.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Right, and more often than not, they save you more money than they cost.
And we are gonna have one on the multi-purpose field.
Scott, go ahead.
so if memory serves me correctly, we have in the past made a motion and voted on it to forward specific Board of Finance items to the ordinance committee. And I'll go back to one of our audits back when we had, I think it was Marion and Company, and she made very specific suggestions on things that had to do with one of the policies that's covered in our existing ordinances that needed to be tweaked. And we did at that time go based on her recommendations, and we did forward that by a vote to the ordinance committee, because I can then remember having to go to a town meeting and speak to that at that time. So I think, you know, to your point, Alex, yes, I believe we can do that. I think that by design of that committee, it's then up for them to research it and decide whether they want to craft it and forward it, you know, at that point.
Okay, do they want to make a motion to do that? Well, I would support that, certainly.
I make that motion that we send a request to the ordinance committee, that they draft an ordinance that would require, town, projects, to have a clerk of the works. What was the other title that you mentioned, Dan?
Commissioning agent, but I think I heard Gary
Is it
say
the same? Is it interchangeable? or-
commissioning agent comes at a cost, but quite often they save you more money than they cost you. Because they catch things on the project that need to be done by the contractor.
A clerk of the works and or commissioning
yeah,
agent,
and/or.
whichever is appropriate for that specific project.
Okay,
I'll second that.
motion been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I think you ought to add a dollar value in there, because you don't want to be hiring a clerk of the works for $100,000 project maybe.
Dan, what would you
So I
suggest?
think you should put some kind of
No, that makes sense.
a lower level in that.
It's hard to say. It's all probably a little different, you know?
What would you
Commission company,
suggest,
depending on
Dan?
the project, I mean, like I said, some projects you may not need, they're pretty straightforward, right? It could be $1 million project, that's straightforward.
Yeah.
right?
But
I
it
mean,
can always be waived.
right.
Can always be waived.
I don't know. I
If
mean,
it can always be waived, then you
$1
don't need a
Then we
dollar,
don't need to,
then you don't need the dollar figure if it can be waived.
But I mean, it can be waived by,
I don't know.
Well, I think-
you don't think a number is required, Dan?
It really depends on the project, you know, crystal ball type thing, right?
okay,
You also mentioned with that CIF funding that we put out, that we did build in a project manager. It's not called a clerk of the works, but we built that into the grant,
right, which
so.
would be sufficient, but I think for other projects, we need, I mean, maybe say to come to the Board of Finance for approval for the amount of money. Would that make sense?
I don't know that that's in our purview, though. That might, it kind of seems like it's more Board of Selectmen to.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
It's an ordinance requirement that it's either black or white unless there's an amount.
I mean, I would say that the ordinance committee is free to kind of draft up.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they're gonna bring it back for
Yeah.
review and tweaking to the Board of Selectmen. You know, before it gets to that point, so, yeah.
And if you have some ideas of what you want the ordinance to say, please send them forward to
And-
us.
Dana knows what we're looking for. Because she's also one of the people who spent many sleepless nights worrying about what's been going on. So she knows from direct experience what we're trying to avoid in the future.
And we do for the senior, or for the school building committee, the ordinance does have a clerk of the works in it, so we could probably use some of
Yeah, maybe use that one.
that language. Mhm.
what I usually do is I'll go out and I'll search some various towns that have similar things. And then we'll plagiarize those and put them together to give us what we're looking for.
Yeah. all right. Okay, any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Any more questions on bonding projects?
Very, very quickly,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, it's all right.
So just to rehash, because I know we broke the sewer out from the water, two separate projects. We're getting ready to break ground on sewer in the summertime.
I think we're doing them both together.
We are getting, so we will have the funding, or it's anticipated we'll have the funding in place to get them.
The third alternative for funding for the water is potentially USDA.
Yeah.
So we're kind of working through that process with them right now.
Okay,
Yeah, we don't want to break into the roads
Okay.
and do them on two separate occasions.
okay.
So when you say June, you're assuming, knock on wood, all the funding comes in from the state. Essentially, right?
Well, and the other thing we're doing is we're doing alternate bids. So when they go out to bid on the project, then we'll come back with, can we afford all of this? Or can
Okay,
we just
right.
afford
X, Y,
some of
Z.
this right now?
Yeah, understood. Okay, great. Well, I'm very happy it's moving along, that's for sure. Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, item number 7, any other business? Anything to discuss? Okay. Item number 8, public forum, would anyone wish to speak? We'll go with Jim first.
Jim Barney, 755 Oakville Road. I spoke at a previous Board of Finance meeting about not tapping into the undesignated fund is referred to, and in fact, working to continue to increase that. That still is my position. On the other hand, the tax burden on some of the people in the town is going to become really tough. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One of the condominiums that I own, the taxes went up approximately $30 a month in this last increase in the revaluation. And on top of that, because that complex supplies heat, there was it was about a $65 increase for that. And then there was another $20 increase for general things, including insurance. That's about $120 increase that we went up per month in our costs, okay? And our tenants they just can't absorb that, okay? And not only that, that doesn't factor in any inflation values that are affecting, income and stuff. Okay? I'm speaking of a specific instance in my case, but there's all kinds of people. Well, in that unit, there's 32 people that are owner occupied that have that problem. And I know more than one of them are worried about whether they're even going to be able to continue to keep their home. So the last comment I'll make is I think that we should be looking at a 0% increase in budget. As you suggested, Scott, with then a couple of steps above that, so that we kind of are prepared for whatever it's going to look like when we finally put the final budget together.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Lori Sorter, I just have a question or a comment, however it's taken, on the proposal to use the undesignated fund to field the project, and to fund the project right now, seeing that they're gonna be in 2 different budget years, that doesn't have to go before a taxpayer?
No. Because approval has already been there for funding the project up to 3.8 million.
Okay, so that's one. The second comment I just have is hearing how desolate the budget season seems to be. I wonder if there's any talk about using the ARPA funds that the town received.
My knowledge, those have been earmarked for the infrastructure projects, is that correct?
So far, we still have some that haven't been earmarked, but I wouldn't recommend using it to cover operating expenses.
No, not operating, but possibly one-time expenses.
How much is actually available in the funds? That,
About 1.5 million, I believe. Yeah, 1.6 million,
it would.
which
somewhat-
we've been waiting to see if we need to use that to cover some of the shortfall in the water and sewer.
Mhm.
Instead of going back to the taxpayers for that,
So if we get these other grants, then we
then we
perhaps,
may be able to determine.
Yeah, that if we get those grants, that would be, that
One
would
more
be,
question, first, the blight enforcer. Yeah, he or he.
She has been hired and she has started. So
Does she have an office in here?
she does not have an office, but I can give you her information. She has an office at CCOG and we have her contact information, emails and phone numbers, so. Usually, complaints go to my office or go down to the building and planning office.
Okay.
how many hours a week?
She can do 5 or more right now because she doesn't have as many responsibilities with the other towns, but average of 5.
Jim, Lori, thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna go to item number 9, adjournment. Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Oh, all right, yes.
Bob and I left that envelope for you.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Do you know what day off the top of your head that is? You know what day it is off the top of your head?
March 24th.
Thank you.
Friday.
Got it.